Welcome to Translate.One-To-Ones, interviews where we pull back the curtain at Translate.One to see what never gets lost in translation. My name is Laura Marquez, Client Solutions and Business Development Manager here at Translate.One, and today I am excited and happy to be joined by Sara Garzón, our Head of Product. Sara Garzón, welcome to Translate.One-To-One. So welcome to the fourth episode. We are incredibly excited to have you here today. Thank you for the time. I think you've shown me your calendar like once or twice and I almost passed out. So really, thank you very much for being here today. How are you? How's everything going?
Good, Laura. Thank you very much for inviting me and for having me today. I'm really excited, and it's always a pleasure to make time for you in my calendar, of course.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you tell us, before we get into you and the product department, etc., can you tell us a bit more about who you are and where you're based?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Sara Garzón, and I'm based in Madrid, in Spain. I'm the head of product for TranslateOne, and I basically work day to day with our teams across Europe and the US to make their lives easier, or hopefully so.
Wow. So that sounds like a wonderful position. Thankfully, we have you, right? So in general, how long have you been in the localization industry, and in particular in Translate.One? How did you get here?
So I've been in localization for around 11 years now, which makes me feel old already. And in TranslateOne, I believe it's been like 2 or 3 years. What brought me here was basically the option to build a real product in a space that's changing really fast. So you can feel that the industry is no longer about just translation, right? It's like operations, technology, risk management. We have user experience as well. And it's all at once, all combined. And my role here allows me to sit at the intersection of all of that and then provide the teams with tools for delivery and automation and innovation. So you can really tell it's not longer only language services, but actually for us, for my team, it's improving how we deliver all of those.
Well, that sounds fantastic to hear. I also wanted to ask you, because when we talk about product, and in particular about product in Translate.One, right? So when everybody hears product team, for example, in MedTech, it's very clear what the product is. We have the device or we have the software. And in a language company, that might not really be that clear. So how will you explain it simply, what the product team is?
So specifically at TranslateOne, the product team is the team that turns our language services into scalable systems. So we build and improve our own platforms. We build and improve automations, internal tools, anything that helps our teams deliver faster with more consistency and with better visibility for clients or internal stakeholders. I think you can think of us as the team that reduces manual effort and complexity. And the whole idea is that our deliveries become smoother and easier to grow, basically.
I think going back to what everybody thinks, right? So I'm seeing this as a potential client, I think, because I think most people think that language companies or linguistic service providers only translate, right? So the product is a translation, there's a problem with the translation, you fix the problem with the translation, right? But that is actually not the case at all, almost, it's really more complex than that. What kind of problems does a product team actually solve on a day-to-day basis?
So that's a really interesting question. So I think, like you said, workflows where we receive like a Word document and we just translate it are no longer the basis of our work. Like that doesn't happen that much anymore. And so for our team, a lot of our work revolves around solving the in-between problems that impact the delivery to the client. So for example, making our workflows more efficient through automations, right? So for example, we might create internal tools that reduce manual work for our PMs, Or we also listen to client pain points and try to come up with tailored solutions for them. Or we also ensure that the business can innovate or can adopt innovation rather responsibly, right? With clear guidance and to protect our client confidentiality. So it's not just one problem. I think it's like lots of things that it's what makes things work in the end. But it's everything that we don't want the client necessarily to see, but just to feel that everything that they want or need is done at the end. And they might not know how we made it.
So magic in the background a little bit, no?
Yes,
Yeah.
basically, yes.
So, like, as you say, you work a lot with connecting platforms. You work on automations, automating workflows. I think in general, adapting solutions to the clients, right? In general, I think of you as the team that molds, let's say, the dough or the plaster that we put into the cracks so we have like a smooth surface, like a fitting end result.
Yeah.
And I was actually just thinking about that spotlight that we had in our monthly meetings a while back of, this huge project with millions of words, but it had millions of repetitions, and you were able
Yes.
to kind of bypass that. And a project that would have costed, I don't know, $500,000 ended up being like around 25,000. Like, that's something fantastic. Like, can you give us an example of something like that or what that looks like in practice?
Yes. So to me, and just to fully understand what this means, I feel like at the core of our team, like what we do is we're kind of obsessed with understanding what our clients really need, because sometimes you work with clients all the time. So, sometimes clients are not that straightforward telling you what they actually need. They would tell you like something doesn't work, but they don't know how to fix that, right? So we need to really pause and like listen to them and really understand what they really need for them to work well. So it's like sometimes we need to slow them down, listen, understand, and then basically understand where the friction is. And then from there, our goal is to basically design a solution that works for them. Either if that's like a seamless workflow, or in this case, the example that you gave is really, really good. Where we had this massive spreadsheet and the client had a tight budget, right? And rightfully so, because actually there were lots of repetitions, but the way that the text was displayed would not allow us, like just at a glance, to make it seem so. So we managed to break it down in chunks so that we could actually benefit from all those repetitions. And that's what actually helped the client in the end. But I feel like we also have other solutions that we work on. So, for example, in our Magna platform, we used to have a way to connect interpreters to clients, or rather, clients to interpreters, in a way that felt a bit cumbersome. So, clients had to actually take the phone and dial a number and then get connected through a code, which was a lot of, pressing lots of buttons.
Yeah.
Yes. For just one simple thing. So we kind of listened to that feedback and we thought, okay, if we were actually a client, how would we like to connect, right? So I would just want to go in, select the language that I need, and just click a button and I'm connected just that fast. So that's basically what we implemented. And we just did that like not that long ago. And it's been working great so far. So I really feel like listening to clients to really understand what they need, even if they don't tell you. So besides being magicians, I feel like we also need to be, like reading minds. Like,
absolutely. Maybe they don't tell you, but because they don't even know themselves, right?
Yes,
like
yes,
they might not
true.
even know what they need. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Something else that I was thinking about, because of course you and the team send us updates, every once in a while, so that we get a clear understanding of what the product team is working on. And from, I think, the last or the second to last product updates that we received, I saw that you were creating a new AI task force. And I thought, okay, that's really cool. That sounds fantastic. Can you tell us what that is, a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm pretty excited about it. So, AI is really in everyone's mouths today. Like everyone is talking about it. But I feel like we need to move past that talking about it and actually do something about it, which is what is going to bring innovation to the team, to the business, and to ourselves as employees. So we actually created this task force that we have. Luckily, we can count on very different team members. So they're coming from different teams, which makes us look a bit cross-functional, and that allows us to not miss things that, sales might be aware of this, and a product team member might be aware of this, and then a production team member might be aware of something else. And then getting together and joining our brains to, brainstorm and think about things helps us be, at the forefront of all of this innovation. And I feel like one of the things that is key to me is that we keep the AI task force very task focused. So it's not just, oh, we're coming to a meeting and then everyone is talking and that's it. It's actually, okay, let's list actionable items and let's actually assign things to people so that by the, yes, exactly. So by the next time we meet, we actually have some updates for the whole team. And it's so good because it's actually been there not for that long, and we've actually already seen some results. So I'm really excited about it. I
That's
cannot lie.
fantastic. Of course you are. I'm excited too. It's contagious, the excitement about that. It's a wonderful initiative, really. And I want to get into Magna a little bit more. You already mentioned it a little bit. I think it's like the big topic that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
So when we talk about Magna, first off, what is Magna? I think that would be the first question that I need to ask you, right? Because not necessarily everybody knows that or has access to that because it's our platform, our development, right? So what exactly is it and where did the idea come from?
Okay. So Magna is basically our platform vision coming to reality, right? So our whole vision is to make one platform as a one-stop shop for any language services that you might need. So interpretation, translation, anything really, and make that unified modern experience where you can have, you can request things, you can get things delivered, you can track, you can enter support tickets for the team to help you, and everything happens in one place. And then this idea actually came from the fact that one of our teams actually had already created this tool for interpreting only. So it Magna was born as interpreting platform, but with the help of my team, which they're great, by the way.
Shout out to the team.
Yes, please. So we're seeing it quickly, very quickly evolve into something more like a central hub for all the work that we do. And the idea comes from this reality, really, that, clients more than ever are operating inside their own systems, right? Like CMS and a PMI and portals. And they don't want language to be the one process that depends on emailing files around, basically. So what we are saying is that businesses have tried to automate basically everything except the language layer, because sometimes it is kind of an afterthought, I feel. And then
most of the times, I'd say,
yes. And so for us to be able to give them access to this one platform where content moves through AI and assets and then validation or human review when needed, I feel like being able to give them that and to offer them the opportunity to have all of this integrated with their own systems so that everything is streamlined, that's what's moving us to create Magna.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. I completely agree. So from what I've seen from the release sessions that we've had and the updates from the team, we see that Magna combines OPI, so over the phone interpreting, AI interpreting, face-to-face interpreting, bookings, translation requests, even like, as you mentioned, support tickets internally, like for our team. So would you say that you were trying to solve all the problems with it? Like, as you mentioned, a centralized hub for that?
I would say not all the problems. That's a bit of a big statement, but I think it's mainly three problems, probably. The first one for me would be fragmentation. Like I said, clients sometimes have lots of content types. Like some might have e-learnings and then IFUs and then video content and lots of that that need to be consistent with each other, right? And then they also have multiple systems because sometimes they are like really big company with very different teams working together, and having that consistency be applied is really difficult for them. And so, on top of that, adding the language layer makes it become a fragmented system where everything is scattered across vendors, tools, processes. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first one that we're kind of trying to solve. Then I would also say visibility for the client. I think this is a very key one. Clients want to know and want to understand what language is costing them and how long it will take for them to get something translated or an interpretation, and why. And Magna for us is an environment that allows them to see this with clear reporting, and they have visibility on spend as well. And they have KPIs like spend per language and things like that, which are very important from a business perspective. So the people
Mm-hmm.
managing the money need to know that. And then the third one for me, and the last one, would be, like I've been saying in the previous questions, is like seamless processes, like being able to have a seamless process that the client doesn't have to think about in the first place. So,
Mm-hmm.
we have clients that clearly understand the power of AI and automation, but they don't necessarily need or want to see everything happening behind the curtain, right? So, like we said, we want to keep the magic on and not necessarily tell them, oh, this is the trick that we used. And so there's a lot of things from localization that people are not aware of, which is like, for example, file engineering, right? So what you were mentioning before, having this massive file with lots of different text that actually were repetitions, but the client didn't know how to handle that. So we were able to break it down and then reconstruct it again before delivering it to the client. So, file engineering, making sure that assets are properly structured for translation, or coordinating multiple stakeholders across something as complex as an IFU, for example, when you have like 30 language to manage. That's a lot. And honestly, I don't think it's where our customers should be spending their time. And that's where we come in, right? So we've built that expertise so that they don't have to. And with Magna, our goal is really simple. So for us to be able to say to a customer, hey, you can plug into our platform, send us your content, and we take care of the rest. And then you just receive whatever we've had to do with your content, you receive it back, and then there you have it. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, instead of juggling processes and worrying about how to execute, they can just focus on their business and trust that localization is being handled very seamlessly in the background.
Absolutely. I'm amazed by all three that you mentioned, but I think the seamless integration is the most, like, the one that sounds the prettiest to me, I would say. Like, the amount of time and effort that is spent on this was not exported properly, then it was not imported properly, and then your
Yes.
system is not my system, and then it just ends up being a mess and chaotic. So, yes,
Absolutely.
that's wonderful. And I also think in the interpreting side, a feature that I found really great is, for example, like the possibility to hand off from AI interpreting to a real interpreter during a
Yeah.
call, because I think AI interpreting is fantastic, is a wonderful possibility that we have, but not necessarily all of the clients are open to that, or at least not with the reassurance that there's a plan B if, you're not comfortable, if there's any sort of issue there. Why was that important to include? Did you get that feedback from the clients as well?
No, that was an idea that came actually from our sales team. So they mentioned it because they were kind of worried, what happens if
Mm,
for whatever reason the AI interpreter is not enough. And we were
mm-hmm.
like, yep, you're absolutely right, because
Could
life
happen.
is
Yeah.
yeah, life is messy. Life is messy and things happen. So sometimes the easiest and fastest way to have this and gain access to this is like the AI interpreter. You don't have to wait. You can just plug in and play. But then sometimes there's, moments where accuracy or cultural nuance or risk, basically the situational risk that you might have, make you need a human. So,
Mm-hmm.
for us, designing a one-click handoff means that the user doesn't have to go in and like restart or drop the call or book an actual interpreting session. They can just switch, and then they will be connected to the available interpreter that we have in the system. So the fact that they can escalate this instantly and keep moving is, I really think that's one of the greatest features that we've added this year. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In general, it seems to be very focused on user experience, like what if we're talking about before, like click to call or the feedback emails that are in your native language or that you can tick or kind of add preferred interpreters. Was the thought process behind it in general to make it easier interpreting or the user experience, let's say?
Absolutely. So we're basically trying to remove any friction. And for us, like taking the admin burden off our customers is really, really important. So we want them to feel like accessing, whether it's interpreting or translation services, that we want them to feel that is effortless. And starting a call, choosing the language you need, and, clicking a button and knowing that it just works and you don't
Hmm.
have to worry about it. So I think that that is really one of the things that's driving us right now. And actually, I'm thinking that one of the big projects that we have ongoing right now is the revamp of our whole customer portal. So we do have a customer portal right now, but we're kind of revamping it so to try and make it as effortless as possible for our customers. And that's been driven directly by customer feedback, which we take incredibly seriously.
Wonderful.
We're constantly looking for ways to refine and simplify the experience so that every interaction feels as intuitive as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've seen, for example, we know that there are other, similar platforms with similar features that pursue similar goals, right? So,
Mhm.
what would you say that makes Magna different from other platforms that are out there?
So to me, it's the fact that it's not it's not built around one feature. So it's not a translation portal or it's not an interpreting scheduler and that's it. It's a unified set of workflows. So you can request interpreting, you can request translations, you can request AI interpreting, you can have reporting, you can actually contact us for support directly on the same platform. And everything is designed to work really well together. And every feature that we keep adding is also designed to work really well together with everything that we have in the ecosystem already. And then not only that, but also the fact that it is designed to be able to fit into client ecosystems as well. Our goal is to be able to integrate with their own system so the language becomes part of their operational flow so that it's not. Sometimes it feels like language is like a parallel universe, like they have their own system. They're used to working with that. But then when it comes to language, it's like, oh, now start using this other tool that, you have to learn from scratch. And then you need to learn how to request and you need to learn this and that. So for us, it was really important that, instead of that parallel universe, that we work together as one. And, the I think what's driving us um, a lot is the fact that, this principle of don't let the customer see the magic behind the curtain is kind of what's driving us right now. Like we want to be able to integrate and connect with their system so that we deliver effortlessly and seamlessly without them having to worry about any of it.
Sold. I bought it. Wonderful, wonderful pitch. And they say I'm sales. That's fantastic. Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Wonderfully put. Loved it. Loved it. So you've mentioned AI a couple of times, like
Mhm.
throughout the interview. Of course, it's involved with everything that we're doing in Magna. And I think besides Magna, one thing that I noticed from the product team is that you are very careful and very concerned about how AI is used, right? So there's a lot of informing about the limits, the boundaries of it. Why is that governance so important?
That's a really good question, Laura. Thank you for asking it. So, to me, I feel like this is really important because in language services, we're working with client content, right? So that means that AI might touch client data, their brand voice, regulatory risk, and obviously their customers' trust. So if we get this wrong, we don't just get bad output. Like we don't risk just getting a bad translation. We can create confidentiality breaches or compliance issues or quality issues, right, that impact not only our delivery, but actually how they're seen as a brand. And also, and I feel like this is really, really important, and not everybody is aware of this, is that when there is a breach, the client is ultimately paying the price for that breach. It's not going to be us. They are the ones that are going to have their data exposed. So it's really, really important we treat this as responsibly as possible. And that's why we're trying to make it mandatory that, we require employees to follow our internal best practices when they're working with AI tools, and they're required to align with the GDPR and the EU AI Act. And that's because we want this to be at the center of our, it's basically our philosophy to work with innovation, but do it responsibly.
Do you think, in your view, that companies might be rushing too fast into AI without really thinking about what you just mentioned, like quality, privacy, data security, compliance? I get a lot of people that say, yeah, I just ran this through ChatGPT. And I said, did you open it in the browser and upload all of that into the cloud, your personal information and everything?
In a
Yeah,
free
my throat
account.
kind of closed up. Yes. So kind of worries me for them as well. It doesn't matter if you end up not choosing our service, but are you okay? Is your data okay? you know
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the many things that we need to, reinforce with clients constantly, because, can you blame them? Because the hype is real. Like, I absolutely get it. And I cannot blame anybody for thinking that, if ChatGPT gives me this for free, why not go for it? But
we're
they
all
really,
thinking that.
exactly. But the thing is, unless you have like a solid foundation of security, human oversight, or governance, AI initiatives are built on sand. So they're really fragile. And we're not even aware of how fragile they are until something happens, which is why we want to put these measures in place, right? Because we've seen, with the AI task force that we were mentioning before, we've tested many, many things. And, you get so many things right that it makes you, you know, feel safe. And then that's where the hallucinations happen. And then
Hmm.
suddenly you get output that you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And, at that point where, like, obviously in an environment when you're testing, it's a safe space in the sense that you're never going to get that to a final client. We're testing with our internal files, and we're testing with things that we are trying to understand if we can use AI for, right? But it's still kind of risky, in my view, if you do that without any control whatsoever and nobody's looking at the output. I feel like so much of the time lately, I get emails from random people, and they're all written in ChatGPT, and you can really tell. And people are not, I don't know if they're aware or not, but it's like really come on, like, we really need to do better, because, especially if you're like working with free accounts, and sometimes even working on a business account is not enough, and people are not aware of that. So yeah, for us, like I said before, like for us, we want to innovate, and we want fast innovation. So we want innovation at speed, but doing it responsibly so that we don't risk anything, because sometimes you might get there faster, but then if there's a breach, you're going to end up in a really poor position. And then you might end up, at the end again and have to start over. So yeah, we really take that seriously.
Definitely. I think everything that you just mentioned, the whole appearance of AI and the swift development of AI has made us, take a full redirection of our essence and who we are as a company and the services that we provide to the clients, right? Have you felt that the same way? How would you say that the role of a linguistic service provider has evolved in the past, say, 5 years?
Yeah, that's a really good question again. um, so yeah, you can clearly see that there's been a shift, and I feel like this past year more than ever, like, language companies are increasingly becoming strategic technology and process partners. It's not just a service provider role anymore, right? So clients today are also expecting more of us. Like they're not expecting just translation because they could get that faster if they have a proper system and so on. But they need multilingual content to flow seamlessly through their organization, just like any other business function, right? With the
Mm-hmm.
confidence that the process is fully supported from beginning to end. So I feel like that's where we come in, and we combine our deep expertise from years and years in the industry with the ability to actually optimize and elevate existing processes. Sometimes we see clients that actually have a system or a process that actually works for them. But then when they tell us, we're like, okay, that's interesting. What about if we add this and we add
Mm-hmm.
this other thing and that other thing? And then we're able to, deliver faster or deliver better quality at lesser cost. So, I really think the future lies in, like I said, integrated workflows, intelligent automation, and responsible use of AI for sure. And,
Mm-hmm.
to allow you to transform the language process from a manual bottleneck into a scalable and high impact operational process.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I ask you something and it's like you answer that question and the one to come, because I was exactly going to ask you right now, like if, for example, a potential client is listening to us right now, they might have skipped the whole episode and they're just listening to this. What would you want them to understand about how the product team can help them or how they can benefit from working with you at Translate.One?
Yeah. So
So
to
all of
me,
the
and
above. And
yeah, basically, I was going to say as a summary of the above, I feel like the product team is here to truly understand the challenges, to listen closely, to discover their pain points and their opportunities as well. Because sometimes, and I always say that a pain point is nothing else than an opportunity to make things better, right? So I always welcome pain points, give them all to me. And then from that, we can design solutions that actually make a real impact. So we want to understand how our clients work so we can make translation or interpreting an added value for them and not a pain point to manage. So our focus is, like I said, reducing admin, increasing transparency for them, and also in general, like building workflows that align naturally with how an organization already operates. So we don't want to add an extra layer to whatever they have ongoing. We just want to integrate with what they have so that it feels more seamless than what they have now. And then that to me means that they can, in the end, they can scale their multilingual operations with confidence without scaling complexity. Because I feel like sometimes when teams start to scale without the knowledge, that's what happens. Like the complexity gets so big that they don't know how to move forward, right? So
Mhm.
making sure that we're able to scale, but keeping it simple is, I feel like, our biggest, goal in the product team.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one last question that's more like a bit out of my own curiosity, I'd say. I want to get like a sneak peek before everybody else gets it in the product updates. What is something coming next from product that people can be excited about?
So I would say mainly two things, I think, which is the AI task force you need to watch for. Because, like I said, it's designed to turn like scattered, isolated ideas and like crazy ideas that we might have into real initiatives with real outcome, right? So we are already tracking initiatives, and like I said, even though it's been set up really recently, we have already started seeing the results. So that's really promising. And then you also have to watch out for the evolution of Magna, which I'm really excited about. I cannot tell everything because, we have to keep some secrets.
For sure.
But it's really an expression of where we're going as a company. It's this one platform's experience with automation that just makes sense and human expertise where it matters. And, a product that clients can actually feel they're confident using. That's my dream goal for the product team.
And, I'm seeing you get there. That's fantastic, really. Thank you very much, Sara, for your time today,
Thank
for
you.
your insights, for your expertise, and, for being the architect behind so many wonderful things that, make us a better company every day. Thank you very
Thank you
much
so
for being
much.
here today.
My pleasure.
Bye.